Hi everybody, Giselle Grenier here from artplace.ca. In today's workshop we're going to work on another Book of Backgrounds page, and this one here is the video on how I did this will be listed at the end of this video. You can find it on my blog and on my YouTube channel. And the inspiration for this piece is from the 365 Art a Day project journal that I'm working on, and it's this little piece here, and it's how I was feeling yesterday. I did this with watercolor pencils, but we're going to be doing this one with acrylics, and I wrote down, feeling lost in a world of color where logic just keeps fighting back. So I'm going to create a larger scale version of this on this background. Now, if you don't have a background prepared, upcycle an old piece of art, to take a random journal page, anything, and just, you know, whatever color, it doesn't matter, because we're going to be obscuring all of this with some gesso. Now, the supplies that I do end up using, I have a whole list of supplies here. I've got my gesso, and I've got my media fluid acrylics, everything laid out. I'll go over the colors, but what I actually end up using will be listed at the end of the video, because sometimes I will pull something else out and not use something. Okay, and brushes, I'm going to be using my Majestic brushes, which are a little bit softer. But when it comes to using gesso, I use my trusty number 8 Bristle Bright. So I'm just going to be putting some gesso on there, and I just want to knock down the page. Now, this is a three-dimensional piece here, so I'm going to have to be a little bit careful about the pressure that I use. I just want to cover everything up. If you don't have a page to upcycle, then you could just omit this. Omit this step. I will be going into great detail about my thought process on how I do this. I like gearing my projects and videos more towards beginners. If you're more advanced or intermediate, and you know this part you already know, then you can always fast forward. I prefer a beginner not be left, you know, wondering how something's done with like those before and after shots. So I prefer just doing everything up front. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go now up and down, because I want this to be kind of distressed. You notice I didn't cover everything up. And I used the gesso on a dry brush, so this will dry very, very quickly. Up and down to make it look like a wall. Okay. I didn't want to tone everything down, but I wanted a lot of the part on the bottom to be knocked down, because I'm going to be putting green on the bottom. And because green is opposite on the color wheel to red, it will make it very dull. Okay, that brush in the water. So first thing I want to do is work on the background, but I want to create a rough sketch first of the girl, and this can be all done freehand. It's nothing major. Let's dry this first. I'm just going to quickly dry it. I'm keeping my hand here, because as long as my hand is comfortable under the heat gun, then the heat gun is close enough. You don't want to burn your pages. We're not embossing. Embossing is fine at high temperatures, but not with the acrylics. Now, if you're using gesso to actually prep your surface, so let's say you're working on raw canvas, the gesso actually has to sit for 24 hours on, let's say, an unprimed surface. Otherwise, if it's just for something like this, you can go right away. Now, with drawing a person, we're not making this as a realistic piece. This is more of a impressionistic piece, almost abstract, fantasy style, cartoony. So what I'm going to do is, instead of working the face, I'm going to work from the bottom up, and I'm thinking if I want to make her kind of skinny, scraggly. Okay, so I'm just going to make her body here. All right, and I'm just going to put marks like so. That's for her sleeves, her shoulder. Then her arms, I'm just going to make her arms come down here, and they're going to rest along the side of her body and come down here like so. And her hair is going to be here, but let's get a V for her thing. And now from here imagine just a neck. There's her shoulders. I'm not going to cover the top because she has this really long hat on. So I'm thinking if I from here and go around and I cut like this. And this we can make as long as big as we want. Like so. Okay, and then her face would then come down. And I want her face to be more oval. And she's going to be looking down like this. It's almost sad. Okay, so that's basically what we're going to be working on. Alright, and you can change that any way you want. I may actually flatten that out a little bit. Because it's a watercolor pencil, this will also all dissolve. So I'm going to take a large filbert brush and I'm going to go into the green, and I'm going to take the green and I'm just going to paint the background. I'm going to go straight up, and when I get about 1/3 up, I'll kind of let the paint run out of the brush. Now the fluid acrylics that I'm using these ones are very transparent. And the color that I'm using here is, let me go over the colors. This is yellow, green light, ultramarine blue, quinacridone violet, quinacridone red, cad red hue, primary yellow, yellow oxide, and titanium white. Now yellow, green light you can make with even something like Hansa yellow light or the primary yellow, and add a little bit of phthalo green to it, or even Viridian to get a nice bright green. These paints have all the properties on the back, the light, fast pigment, and the transparency. So with the pigment, I know how this paint was made, so I can save time and not mix it up myself. Okay, and the edge here, I'm just going to rough that out. And you know what? I'm actually going to knock that down a little bit further down. Now, if you were doing this straight on a unprimed surface, you wouldn't be able to lift out anything here. It would just stick. And right now what I want to do is I want to cover a large amount of the background. This is a very fast piece. Okay, quickly rinse my brush. And go into primary yellow with some water. And bring that here. Now yellow and green go really well together because there's yellow in green. There are so many different yellows out there. So many different yellows and so many different blues. So you will always get different types of green. And I can choose to make some parts a little bit brighter. And because the paints are transparent, I can glaze. Glaze is by layering transparent layers of paint. And to just, you can still see everything below. So it's optical color mixing. Physical color mixing is mixing on the palette. Optical color mixing is layering the colors, glazing. Beauty. You can see where some of the watercolor pencil dissolved. Okay. Just going to let that dry just the outside lines. Because acrylics, when wet seeps wet, so if I were to have this wet and I would touch some of the flesh color in here, it would seep out. But if this is dry, then the paint won't seep out. I'm going to work her skin tone first, and for that I'm going to take some titanium white, basic skin tone, a speck of cad red light, and a little bit of yellow oxide. If I say yellow ochre, I mean yellow oxide. And let's just put her in there. You see I'm letting some of that watercolor pencil dissolve, that's fine. I can just move it around a little bit. And work underneath. Also works a little bit of a shadow as well. If you find that your paints, you want them to be a little bit more transparent, if you add too much water, it'll break down the strength of the pigment. So what you can do is just add a little bit of medium to your paint. In Traditions, it would be the extender with the fluid media. You can use the Traditions extender as well, but you can use the matte medium. Just bring that down for a bit of a shadow. There we go. Okay. I'm just going to pick up the part of it with a little bit more white. Now I usually use my Sabletech brushes anytime I'm working with a portrait, but this is a very fast, very expressive piece. I'm not going to worry about it. And from there, let's see, let me think. I might as well work her arms. You can take the same skin tone mix, make it a little bit more. I'm going to cool it down a little bit. Like a speck of blue. And we'll just paint that in. And I'm keeping this quite rough, and I'm going right into the watercolor pencil. I'm keeping this fairly light because I don't mind if some of the underlying layer shows through, like some of this part here, I don't mind. And by going right into the watercolor pencil, it will dissolve a bit and will act as a bit of a shadow. And if you don't have the watercolor pencil, that's no problem. Just use regular graphite or charcoal even. Charcoal is a bit dusty with my allergies. I don't want to sneeze on camera. Alright. And we'll make up her dress. Now I love, like, Dioxazine purple is a really good purple. I love using ultramarine blue, and in the Traditions it would be the permanent alizarin crimson, but in the fluid acrylics there isn't an alizarin crimson, so PV19, which I believe this is what this is, yeah, quinacridone violet. We'll make a nice purple, and you can shift it so you can make it more on the blue side or more on the violet side. Look at that, that is gorgeous. And I'm going to add a little bit of water to that because I want to try to keep some of this no white whatsoever. No white whatsoever. And this you can do in a few layers to get the depth that you want. Just using a round brush. Now the other thing to do if you want a nice pattern is when this is almost dry, you could take a stencil, put it on top, then rub out with a baby wipe, and that'll remove some of the paint. Look at that. Oh, beautiful. And I can take a little bit more of the deeper purple and just right along her waist a little bit, more of a shadow. Underneath here. Right up here. And make sure you get a nice edge on her shoulder. This is where you get to experiment, try different methods, like something that you know in fine art you're not supposed to do, but you can try it with in your journal. See what would happen. I love asking myself, what if I took this product and put them together? The only thing with like what I call the chemistry rules. You can't mix oil and acrylics together. But you can paint acrylics and put oils on top. You just can't do the other way around because nothing will stick. There we go. So that's nice. I like that. And now for her hat, I'm going to take quinacridone red. Bit of water right along that edge. I'm kind of making it straggly. Now I'm going to wait here for a bit because this is still a little bit wet. And I'm making it kind of straggly, like jiggy-jaggy on the outside edges, but around the face, so I'm going to be very careful. So I'm not dry. I'm going to hit that quickly with the heat gun. That's all you need. And if you want to make it more washy, just add a little bit more water to it. See how transparent it's getting. Now here, I probably should have made this a little bit more opaque. I'm going to see if I can rub the watercolor pencil. There we go. Where I did the sketch for the watercolor pencil, the line was showing through. Technically, the hat would be covering the line, but because the watercolor pencil is dissolving, then I'm okay. So I'm going to bring this down right about here. See, I'm just really being quite rough. Her hat could be a woolly hat. Doesn't matter. I could take a little bit of the quinacridone violet, and if I wanted just to add a little bit of scratchies, like just little distressed lines here and there, where it would be shadowed, like so. It's not hair, it's a hat. Mind you, if you wanted to make it hair, that's fine. And just going to bring this down here. There we are. I'm just gonna touch up some areas. Now, believe it or not, this is done. Other than going along the edge with a sketching pen, this is done. But see how fast it was? It's just to create something. I'm gonna take a little bit more of that. Oh, gonna have to make more skin tone. Not too much. Just wanna detail this a little bit better. Then from the bottom, I'm going to work it up, and as it runs out of paint, I'm going to leave it because I want her neck to be a bit more shadowed. And I can take some of this color just on the edge. Acrylics will dry darker, so you can make your lines a little bit lighter if you wanted to. Now, if you didn't have a pen, you could just take the quinacridone violet and just outline like this. I'm going to go to a smaller round brush. Just a little one. You can take a liner if you want. Just make the lines really scratchy. They're not a perfect line. You can see how I'm just so. Now if you had a pen, what you could do, where is it? You could take the pen with everything dry, and then you can just, like this. Okay? Just outline it like that. One of my challenges is to work on my liner technique, or my fine detail work, fast. Because I can get the fine detail liner work done with a pen, no problem. But it's doing it with a brush and to try to develop that control. Now at this point here, now I can just do a quick little, I'm going to go to a smaller brush. You know what, I don't like that. I'm not a fan of that. I'm going to take a really small brush, and I'm going to go into quinacridone violet, a little bit of ultramarine blue, and I'm just going to go back over the eyes and nose and the mouth. And now I wiped out the paint, and I'm just going to just dry brush with an outline. There we go, that's better. There we go. Oops. That's all there is to it. And this being dry, you can handwrite a message. So I would have to handwrite this really, really big, so I can just write it here. Actually, let me write it with, I wonder if I can do it with a pencil. So in this one here, I wrote it all the way around. I wonder how big I would have to write. So I'm going to do it with the pencil first. For placement, you can even stencil, color, where, logic, keeps fighting back. Okay, so that, you can actually be just like that if you wanted to. And what would happen, here's a what if, what would happen if we actually just took water, went right over the watercolor pencil. There we go. If it's not bright enough or dark enough, you can go back over with a marker or go back over with the pencil again. Okay. The other thing too is these lines here, you can go over with your watercolor pencil as well. I'm just going to go with the other, a bit bigger of a round brush, just because it holds a little bit more water. Put some water there. There we go. But stenciling would be nice on this as well. This is fast. One thing to keep in mind when you're ready to varnish this, if you're going to varnish, which I am, this is still water soluble. So you may want to do this writing after you varnished, or use a liner that won't dissolve with paint when it's varnished, I should say. Okay, let me just quickly dry this. Just blotting up the excess water. Then from here, I'm going to use my permanent liner. And the one that I have here, actually it's not coming off. I'll try this one and see. There we go. So I'm kind of just going over, go back over everything. This is permanent on paper, but when you've got paint involved, and you're going to varnish, that's a different story. So always try it first. And I can always just add a little bit more of the watercolor pencil to smudge it. So if we took water, and the word A, letter A, so it's not too bad. Okay, nothing's really dissolving. This is all the watercolor pencil now. So I'm just going to smush it out to make it look like a shadow on the side. This is all the watercolor pencil. And if you really want to make a dark shadow, just add more watercolor pencil. Or paint. You don't have to have watercolor pencil. Just keep it straggly. Dry it. Just blot up the excess water, just to speed up the time. Look at it on an angle. And for varnishing, don't shake it. You can just swirl the jar. You don't want to get bubbles in your varnish. And I'm going to take a big filbert brush, and I'm going to start on the outside first, because I want to make the final stroke to be over the writing, and you want to do that in one pass. So just in case it will affect it, you want to keep this minimal number of strokes. Okay, so I'm going to make one pass down, one pass down, one pass down. It doesn't seem to be dissolving, but I bet you if I just kept going over and over and over with it, it might start dissolving. There we go. Yeah, starting a little bit. Just a little bit. And this will have such a beautiful flat, whoopsie, flat finish on it. And the pages will not stick together in the journal. Now, it's best to let this dry naturally, but just watch what happens when I just use the heat gun, because you can speed up the drying time. So look at that. See the finish? And if you apply the varnish thickly, it will take longer to dry. You have more time at home than I do, so let it dry naturally if possible. I'm just doing this to show you what it would look like. I will still put this aside to completely dry. And also, if you're working on a journal page that has stuff on the background, okay, just be careful when you do that. Here we go, all finished. So a great way, see, I've got a collage stuck back here. A great way to upcycle a piece of art, or just to work on something existing. And this is just a feeling that I had, and this is what I quickly just sketched in my book, and it turned out really, really well. So this is another page done on a Book of Backgrounds page, and I hope that you enjoyed it and picked up some tips and techniques from it. And until I see you next time, stay inspired.